Okay, let's learn something, shall we? So today I'm going to show you how to create playlists in RadioDJ automation. Now, if you haven't heard of RadioDJ, it is an absolutely free radio automation software similar to MediaTouch or Wide Orbit. The only difference is, once again, it's absolutely free. You can get it from radiodj.ro. Go grab it, download it, follow the instructions on the website to install it. If you want me to do a video of how to install it, by all means, let me know in the comments below, and I will. It's actually pretty easy to do, and I believe there's already videos out there. But anyway, what I want to do today is show you how to create the playlists in RadioDJ so you can get your music on the air. So anyway, I have it running here in my virtual machine. So I'm going to open up the virtual machine, and yeah, I use this as a backup for my main playout, which is running on a server in a data center somewhere. So if there's any work that needs to be done on the server for whatever reason and I am shutting it down, I'll usually just switch to this virtual machine so we can continue playing and the station doesn't go off air. Now, assuming you have already imported your tracks, once again, if you want a video on how to do that, I can do it for you. Let me know in the comments below. But there's already videos on it. If you look on the RadioDJ website, they show you quite detail on how to do it. And honestly, it's very easy. You kind of do it through this track manager here. You go to import. It's very straightforward. You choose the track that you want to import, wherever it is, and Bob's your uncle, as they say. So anyway, I'm assuming that you already have your tracks imported, whether it's your music, whether it's your IDs, jingles, whatever you want to call it, and you have all your categories already created. You have your stuff organized. So, like I said, I'm going to show you how to do the playlists. There's two ways of doing the playlist in RadioDJ. The first way is, the very basic way, where you're doing the playlist by hand. I don't suggest you do this because it's going to take you a while, but by all means, if you want to do it, this is how you do it. You simply go to this playlist builder icon right here on the bottom left of the screen. You open it up and you get a window that says playlist builder, new playlist. Simple as that. So now, in order to make this playlist, you essentially, all you do is you pick the tracks that you want to included in your playlist. So in our case, we're just going to do a very simple short playlist that I just want to show you how to do it. So the way I have my tracks organized under music is with as any other radio station would do. You have heavy rotation tracks, recurrent tracks, and then classic tracks. And categorized we don't really use. That's tracks that don't really belong in there, but for some reason I still want to keep in the database. But anyway, these are the three ones: the heavy rotation, recurrent, and classics. So let's just create a sample playlist of whatever. So let's say I want to play this track, and just picking randomly this track. Chainsmokers, sure, why not? And then we'll go to some recurrents. I'm gonna go sure, and that, and then maybe we'll throw in a classic track from I don't know. Oh, there you go. 2 unlimited, no limit. Why not? Boom, there. We want it there. You can also move them around in a playlist by dragging them around and whatnot. So if you make a mistake and you put this track on the bottom, but you actually want it at the top, just drag it around. Simple as that. Now, any radio station, you will also want some IDs in there, so why don't we throw in some IDs? I have my IDs under station IDs, and then we'll do Toronto IDs because we're in Toronto. I have also Ottawa IDs because we run a station in Ottawa, but that's a different story. And let's say we want to do IDs between here, throw another ID here, and then maybe this ID there, and then that ID there, and voila. There you go. There is your sample playlist on the bottom left here. You can see how long it is. In our case, it's 20 minutes and 7 seconds. If you want to create the whole hour, by all means, sit there and create the whole hour. And whatnot, if you want to record voice tracks, you have a nice voice track editor. You basically say, I want to put a voice track right there. You hit the record button, I don't have the microphone hooked up because this is a virtual machine, so it won't work. But in our case, it will work. In your case, if you have your microphone hooked up to Radio DJs and you're in the settings, you just hit record, do your blah blah blah, and then save it into the playlist, and it will show up right there. So if you want to voice track your day, by all means, that's one way of doing it. Now, once you have your playlist created and you're happy with it, what you have to do is save it. So you go up here to File, Save Playlist, and we want to create a new playlist and call it whatever you want. In our case, we're just going to call it Playlist 1 because it's nice and simple. And then you simply hit Save. There. So now you're done with the playlist builder, for now at least. And what you want to do is get your playlist into this main window right here. This is your main playout window. So anything that's playing in auto mode, if you have auto DJ selected, it will go from top, boom, 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 and so on and so forth. So what you want to do is have your playlist loaded up there. Now the way you do that is with something called events. Now there's two ways of accessing the events button. There's the events list right here. So you click on the events on the bottom right, or you can go to options and then click on events, which is kind of the longer way. Once again, they will take you to the same place, so pick yours and enjoy it. So these are all the events that I have set up throughout the different days. Now if you want to view it by hour, since we are so close to midnight right now, these are the only events that I have coming up till midnight, and then it's going to load the next day at midnight and then show you the whole day's events by hour. But if you want to view all your events for all the different days, this is essentially how to do it. So in order to load the playlist that we just created, let's say we want to load it at 11:50. It's 11:45 right now. Say we want to load it at 11:50. So we open up, we want to create a new event, so we click the plus on the bottom, call the event whatever you want. In that case, we're just going to call it the same thing as we called the playlist. You don't have to do that, but if you want to, by all means, go ahead. Now the event type, there's different event types that you can choose. You can choose it with no repeats, which basically means it will happen on this day at midnight, boom, and that's it. It will never repeat again. If you want to repeat it by day, you can choose which days it's going to repeat on. So every day at midnight you want to load that same playlist. I don't know why you would want to do that, but by all means you can. Or if you want to do it by day and hour repeat, you can choose which hours you want to, which days and which hours you want the event to load or the playlist to load. In our case, let's just leave it for every day. At the top of every hour, we're going to load this event. Now, over here you have the event hour window, which basically lets you choose which minute of the hour you want to load this event on. So ignore the hour mark. Just make it 0 because it doesn't matter. It even says here in a big red letter saying hour will be ignored. So you can make this 10 if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. And we said we wanted to load this event at 50 minutes past the hour. You can do it at the top of the hour. So if you wanted to do it at the top of the hour, you would just put 00 and 00 seconds. I like to make these 00 so it doesn't confuse you. So let's say you wanted to load this at 1 minute past the hour, you would put 01. Let's say you wanted to load this at 59 minutes and 30 seconds past the hour. You simply put 59 and then 30. And then the event will load at 59 and 30 seconds past the hour. But once again, for us, we're going to leave it at 50. Now, what happens at 50 minutes past the hour? Well, this is where the event actions come into play. You can tell Radio DJ what to do at that when the clock hits that particular time, that particular minute. Now, the way you do that, you add the actions by clicking the plus button on the right hand side of the actions window. So first thing you want to do is disable the auto DJ function. So when 50 minutes past the hour hits, auto DJ will disable. The second thing you want to do is clear playlist. Clear playlist. Where is my clear playlist? It is, I just saw it somewhere. Clear playlist. There it is. I'm blind. Don't mind me. So what happens is the playlist will clear, meaning whatever is loaded in the window right now, or whatever playlist the tracks are loaded in there, we want them to clear. Now, if you had auto DJ selected, it would reload the same playlist. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it would reload the same playlist again. So what you want to do is disable the auto DJ, then clear the playlist. Now, as soon as you clear the playlist, you also want to load your playlist, your new playlist that you just created, correct? So we go to load playlist, and then we choose, boom. Now the position is, where do you want this playlist to load? Do you want it to load on the top of the main playlist, or do you want it to load on the bottom of the main playlist? In our case, we want it to be on the top because we want it to play, boom, right there. So what we do, you choose top, you choose the playlist that you just created. As if you remember, we called it playlist number 1, and you add the action. After the playlist is loaded, we want to re-enable auto DJ so that it can play automatically, so you don't have to do anything about it. And there we go. So now we have this event set up, and we save it. So now we add event, 50 minutes. Look at that, we made it with 30 seconds to spare. Amazing. Add event added successfully. So now we went, and as you see, this thing starts flashing right here. So in 20 seconds, if we did it right, the playlist right here, the main playlist, will disappear, and the playlist that we just created will load up. So let's see if we're right. In 10 seconds, we shall find out. 5. It's like waiting for Christmas. 5, 4, 3. Oh, not Christmas, New Year's. Boom! And look at that. There's our playlist that we just created. It loaded it up. And if you had auto playing, it would just continue playing with your playlist. So that's one way of doing the playlist. Hopefully it didn't confuse you too much. Now, you probably agree that that's a little bit of painstaking way. I don't think you want to sit there and create 24 hours of playlists. I mean, if that's your thing, why not? Go for it. But personally, I don't think I want to do it. So that's not the way I would do it. Now, so because RadioDJ is actually an automation software, it can do all this music picking for you automatically based on a certain criteria. Now, if you're not familiar with the way radio stations build their playlists, they rely on something called a radio clock, which is basically imagine a clock broken down into 60 minutes like any other clock, but certain things happen at certain times in that particular clock, and this is how basically it could be broken down. So let's say top of the hour, you want to hit your top of the hour ID, which basically says you're listening to this and that station located in this and that city, and we are the best. And then what you want to hit is your first song of the hour, which would be your most often hot current song if you're in top 40 CHR radio, or one of your big hits if you're, in one of the golden classics formats and whatnot. So that would be your big song, because you want to start off your hour with a big banger, so you get the people listening and whatnot. So that would happen at 16 seconds past the hour. If you look up here, then you hit another song and another song and another song, and then eventually a commercials and whatnot. So most radio stations will have their music categorized in 3 different categories or 4 different categories depending on the music director. It's hot current, recurrent, and classic, and that's exactly how I have my music categorized. You can add another recurrent or recurrent 1, recurrent 2, which are they're not new songs, but they're still hits, kind of to say, or they're still bangers, or they're not as popular as the golden big hits, but people still remember them and people still love them. So that's usually how stations have their music categorized, and they built their clock based on those categories. So in our case, we want to kind of recreate this clock for top 40 dance station, if you will. This is as you can tell, after the top of the hour here, top of the hour ID, there's a hot current song followed by another hot current song followed by a classic song Oh, I didn't mean to do that, but classic song, followed by an ID, followed by another hot current, and so on and so forth and so forth and so forth. Eventually we hit the recurrence, and then recurrence at the end, just to kind of fill the hour till the end in case, you run short or whatnot. So basically, what you got to create if you're creating a radio station, you got to create yourself a little radio clock, figure out where you want which type of songs to go. If you're genre based, then maybe you want to start with a rock song, followed by a pop song, followed by a dance song or whatever. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. I mean, there's no rules in internet radio if you're starting internet radio station, so you can play around with it, and you can always readjust it and whatnot. So once again, we want to recreate this in RadioDJ. So let's go back to our virtual machine here. Now, the way you do that is something called rotations. And you can find those under options and track rotations. So what we want to do is essentially create a new rotation. So let's hit the new rotation button. Poof, gives us a blank screen right there. Bam. Easy as that. So what we want to do is add our first track. So like we mentioned, we look at this clock right here. Our first track, forget about the top of the hour ID, because we're going to schedule that in the events. It's just easier that way. But our first track's going to come from the hot current category. So if you go back here and we go to music, and then we choose hot current, and then subgenres if you want to go that far. I don't want to use that. And then over here you choose, you can choose the rotation rule as to what track you want to choose. Do you want to choose it at random? Do you want to choose it by priority? You can assign priorities to your tracks when you import them. Do you want to assign a track that's been most times played, so it's one of those hot tracks that keeps playing practically every hour if you're a radio station that has a playlist of 45 minutes or so? Or do you want to choose a track that's recently played, which basically means a track hasn't been played for a while, and it's time for it to be played? In our case, we're just going to choose that. Now, for the sweeper section here, do you want to drop a sweeper on top of it? What RadioDJs allows you to do is drop a dry sweeper on the intro time of a song. So the intro time of a song, if you're not familiar with it, is basically the time between when the track actually starts and when the vocals kick in. It's called hitting a post. So if you have a sweeper that's dry, doesn't have any sound effects in the background, just a voice saying, today's best music, blah blah blah, FM or blah blah blah, radio, yada yada yada, and you want to drop that on top of the start, you would just choose right here. Make sure it goes at start or in the intro, and drops on the intro time. If you wanted to drop at the start of the track, no matter what, you put it there. Or if you don't want it to drop at all, you choose without. Or if you want it to drop at the end of the song, during the play out, you choose it at end. In our case, you know what, we're going to do without, because we have a top of the hour ID before this. It's the first song. So why drop another ID after an ID? It's just going to sound stupid, right? So in this case, music coming from heavy rotation, any genre you can pick. If you have your genre selected, you can choose that. But for us, we're just going to stick to any genre least recently played, and without the sweeper on top of it. Okay. Oh, it must be backup time. There you go, backed up. Yeah, that's another thing that RadioDJ does every day at midnight or so. It does a backup of the database and whatnot. So that's what you just saw there. So we add it. Boom. There's your first entry on the playlist. On the rotation builder. And we do the same thing for the second one, where we want to add, let's say, an ID, or we want to add another heavy rotation track, but this time we want to do it with a sweeper over top of the intro. Boom, done. And the third track, let's say we want to add a station ID. So let's go station IDs, and then we go to Toronto in our case. This one doesn't have any sweepers because it's an ID already, so you're not going to run an ID over top of an ID. That's just going to be a black hole of craziness happening, and you don't want to do that. So boom, There you go. Station ID. Now over here where it says repeat rules, what you can actually do is set up repeat rules for all your songs. So let's say you don't want a song by a particular artist to play for X amount of hours after it's been played. That's what repeat rules are, and I'll show you how to set those up later on after we create our playlist. So anyway, this is how you create the playlists. You can continue doing so until you kind of fill up your hour just like this. Once you're done, you save it, save the playlist, or sorry, save the rotation. It's not a playlist, it's a rotation. Call it whatever you want. In our case, it's test rotation, or it doesn't matter what you want to call it, or daytime 2, whatever you want to call it. So test rotation, save it, blah blah blah, done. Okay, so the way you set up your rotation rules is under options. So you go to options, and then over here where it says auto DJ, you have rotation rules category. Now, don't play same track for X amount of minutes, and don't play same artist for X amount of minutes. So I said, if let's say you don't want Cher over here to play, very often, you would say that, oh, I don't want the artist to repeat for, in our case it's 360 minutes, but you can make this to whatever you prefer. Or if you don't mind the artist repeating, but you don't want the same track repeating for X amount of minutes, you do the same thing right here. So after you're done with that, boom, close it, and your rules are set up. So now how do you load this rotation? Same thing as loading a playlist. So you would come here. See, look, our playlist is already in there at 53. We don't want it anymore. Let's delete it, shall we? Let's load playlist 1. Playlist 1, like that. Let's delete this event. We don't need it anymore. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. And playlist 1, yeah. Delete this event. We don't need it. Bye-bye. There you go. So now if I refresh it, it's gone. Anyhow, so the way you load up the rotation that you just created, it's the same way that you loaded up the playlist that we created earlier on. You go to the event section, then you click on new event. You call the event whatever you want, and in our case it's gonna be rotation. You can call it whatever you want, and then we wanted to repeat it once again by day and hour, or if you want to repeat it once a day, or blah, it's totally up to you. In our case, we're going to repeat it every day and every hour at, let's say, let's give ourselves another 5 minutes, because probably, okay, let's say 09:45. At 9 minutes and 45 seconds past each hour, it's going to load this event. So we're going to create the actions for the event. Once again, the first action is going to be disable auto DJ. Boom. Second action is going to be clear the playlist that's already in there, because we don't want them clashing or anything like that. Third action is going to be load rotation. Now, load rotation is right here on automation. So load rotation, you choose it. Then we go to which rotation you want to choose. In our case, it was the test rotation, which was right there. We add it. And then after the rotation is loaded, what we want to do is set the sweeper category, because as if you remember, we had one track that had the sweepers dropping on top of the intro time. So the way we do that is, once again, we had another action, and then we can just scroll down to we see set sweeper category, and in our case, we wanted to load the Toronto sweepers because we're in Toronto, not in Ottawa. But anyway, that's a different story. Add action, and once the sweepers are loaded, what we want to do is re-enable auto DJ, like so. Re-enable auto DJ. So this is what your event action should look like. No, we have a few minutes to kill here, so let's change this to, let's say, load at 06 and 30 seconds. Why not? Boom, 30 seconds. Add event added successfully. And as you can see, the rotation started flashing. So if you pay attention to this playlist right here, in about 10 seconds. It will disappear and it will load up a random generated playlist based on the categories that you created, and it will do that, boom, every hour. There it is. There's your random generated rotation. Simple as that. And it will do it again next hour and next hour and next hour and next hour and forever. Well, so that's the quick overview as to how to create rotations in a free automation, radio automation system called RadioDJ. Once again, it's free. You can grab it from radiodj.ro. Thank you for watching.